communities impacted by Tropical Cyclone Jasper. This is joint Australian and Queensland Government disaster funding, and I welcome the support of the Albanese Government in delivering this funding, and note that we have with us the Australian Government's Minister for Disaster Recovery, Murray Watt, and Senator Anita Green, who of course is based here in Cairns. It's been activated for Cairns, Cook, Douglas, Hopevale, Yarrabah and Wudjil councils to assist them with the costs of recovery. Residents living in Douglas and Wudjil can also access personal hardship assistance, $180 for individuals and up to $900 for a family of 5 or more, to cover the cost of essentials like food, clothing and medicine. Uninsured residents may also be able to access up to $5,000 to reconnect damaged services like electricity, gas and water. As the events continue to unfold, we will expand this support for further impacted areas, and Murray and I have already been able to have a discussion about what additional DRFA support we might be able to provide. Jasper crossed the coast as a Category 2 system in the vicinity of Wudjil at around 8 o'clock last night. As we know, the system has now been downgraded to a tropical low and will continue to track towards the Gulf of Carpentaria over the next couple of days. But we aren't out of the woods yet. We have already seen flash flooding. 8 people had to be evacuated by SES from their roof in Mossman. A major flood warning is current for the Daintree River. Other warnings are in place for a number of catchments. Just remember to listen to the warnings. Don't enter floodwaters, no matter the conditions. If it's flooded, forget it. There are about 40,000 homes and businesses without power. There are significant energy crews on the ground, and Energy Queensland are sending additional crews from Townsville. Of course, that means that many of the traffic signals and lights are out, and we just urge people to take caution on the roads. Multiple road closures and diversions remain in place. If you don't need to leave your home, please stay inside. We need to give emergency crews and our energy and road workers time to clean up from this event. I'll go next to Murray Watt.
Thanks, Deputy Premier. It's great to be with you here in Cairns with all of the local representatives, and is a very strong sign of support, I think, that we've got all 3 levels of government working very closely together here in far North Queensland to keep people safe and to aid with the recovery that lies ahead. As the Deputy Premier said, the cyclone has passed landfall now, obviously, and is gradually moving across the Cape. We're keeping a very close eye on what it does when it eventually gets to the Gulf of Carpentaria, because there is a moderate risk that it could reform once it hits the Gulf. But it's pleasing to hear that there has been reasonably limited damage in terms of property damage and things like that overnight. We obviously want to keep it that way. But today the really key focus is going to be on the flooding that we're going to be seeing as a result of what is continued very heavy rain across far North Queensland. As the Deputy Premier said, if there's one message for people today, it's if it's flooded, forget it. Last year, we saw over 10 people die in floodwaters just in Queensland from driving into floodwaters. We don't want to lose any lives as a result of people thinking that they can drive through floodwaters when they actually can't. So please, today is a day to be very careful on the roads if you need to be on the roads at all. And as I say, we'll be keeping a very close eye on that on the floodwaters that particularly are happening around Mossman and Daintree Village in the next couple of days. I'm very pleased that we've been able to work with the Queensland Government to very quickly activate the first round of assistance that is payable under the National Disaster Recovery Funding Arrangements, and I thank the Queensland Government for working with us to have that up and running so quickly. The Deputy Premier has run you through the details of that, but essentially there is money available for people who are experiencing personal hardship, who've been directly impacted by the cyclone or the floods, and in addition we'll be providing jointly funded support to councils in the region who of course will be incurring costs through the recovery process. Can I also thank Mayor Terry James and all of his crew here in Cairns for inviting us to be part of this morning's local Disaster Management Committee meeting. There's nothing like being on the ground and hearing directly from people face to face about what's been going on and what support they need, and I really value the opportunity to be able to join with you today. Just lastly, can I just thank particularly Senator Anita Green, who's been a fantastic source of information to me in recent days as our locally based senator, making sure that she's standing up for this local community as well. Who did we say was going next? The Mayor, of course.
Thanks, Murray. Welcome, everybody. Firstly, could I thank our friends from the other two levels of government for coming here today and giving us the support that the community really needs in times like this. All in all, we practice for the worst situation here, and we hope for the best. And it really did work out okay for us. So, not too much damage, trees down, power out. We're used to that. We practice for that. Now we're going to wait and see how much water we get. And to give you an idea of how much water we are getting at the moment, our dam yesterday was 1.5 metres below the spillway. As we stand here now, it's 1 metre over. That's 2.5 metres in 24 hours. So that's a lot of water. So what we're saying to people, you know, don't go in flooded creeks or roads. Just be very careful. The other thing is, of course, it's hard to believe, but our intake is blocked up there at the moment with the amount of debris that come over the dam. So we're asking people to conserve water when there's a lot of water coming out of the sky. But all in all, it's been a good practice for an event. You know, we found out a few tweaks that we need to fix, and we'll do that, and we'll get it right. So other than that, thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and lovely to be here, which is, as most of you would know, home. So lovely to be home at this time of year. I'd just like to thank everyone from the outset. That's police at district level working with their committees, all of the mayors working with their committees, and even at the state level. We had our QDMC this morning with all the mayors on board. The preparation and the planning has been second to none. I actually couldn't be more pleased with the preparation and planning and also the response to this event as we lead into recovery. It has been alluded to a number of times, but what we will see and are seeing is extraordinary amount of water over our roadways in particular. We've already had a number of rescues up in the Mossman area, but the Senator did touch on this. We had 10 people die last time we had an event such as this. So we know that people are going through flooded waters, which is one of the most extreme and dangerous events, particularly after a cyclone or a flood event. So please, the message is very, very clear. If it's flooded, forget it. And if you don't need to be out and about until this weather event passes, please don't. But once again, to all of you, a sincere thank you. Thank you to the public who are being absolutely wonderful in terms of messaging and listening to the message from authorities. That has been exceptional. Just hopefully a few more days to go and we're home and hosed. So thank you very much, everyone.
Well, good morning all. I was fortunate enough to arrive here at the time of the LDMC meeting was in place, along with Minister Watt. So we got an excellent briefing from those, and I want to thank the volunteers and also those agencies that have been in tune and in touch with the community. And I want to thank North Queenslanders as well, because they've heeded those messages and those warnings, those key warnings about if it's flooded, forget it, don't go into that water. But an extraordinary volume of water across the area, coinciding, unfortunately, yesterday it was on a track of around about 10 o'clock to coincide with the high tide. So we're extremely lucky we dodged that bullet and made landfall around about 8, 9 o'clock last night. So it didn't match that high level mark. That would have been obviously a lot of concerning occupations, but also areas that would have been flooded. So once again, we're calling on people to listen to those warnings, keep in touch with the agencies, your radio, to make sure you're aware of the familiarity of those locations, and we'll get through this. And I want to thank the federal government, but also our government in matching that funding. In terms of my portfolio of agriculture and fisheries, we'll be doing those assessments out there in the fields once there's opportunities to go under some of those areas of primary producers' land, and we'll come back in terms of the requirements that those people are seeking.
Good morning, Brad Commons, Queensland Fire and Emergency Services. First of all, I'd like to thank the community for being safe, for not putting themselves in danger. That means that we don't have to put our first responders out there in danger as well. Overnight, the cyclone did cross the coast. That does not mean that this incident is over. We are going to have considerable amount of rain. There'll be considerable high intensity rain, possibly high winds for some time to come. We've currently got our damage assessment team's out in the field, and since 6 o'clock this morning we've conducted 236 damage assessments. Of that, the good news is that only 10 of those were minor and 8 were moderate, so not a great deal of damage to the community infrastructure and to housing, so that's very, very good. Our teams will stay in the field. They've been in the field for a couple of days, right from Tully right up to Cooktown, and they'll stay in the field to continue those damage assessments as this flooding continues. We are expecting a flood area around the Daintree River of about 9 metres today. Earlier this morning it was at 8 metres, and that will cause some flooding in Daintree, as we had some flooding also in Mossman last night. Thank you.
So, my name's Jake Eld. I'm the CEO of the Queensland Reconstruction Authority. Can I firstly commend the police services and the fire and emergency services about the wonderful job that they have done keeping our community safe. Now, as has been said, flooding is still a significant risk, so we do need to make sure that if it's flooded, forget it. I'll say it again. Now, at this stage, there have been no significant reports of damage, but that's not to say there won't be, and as the floodwaters subside, we need to be very mindful and be watching. As you've heard, we've already had a number of assessments occur, and that will continue on as the storm moves along. Queensland Reconstruction Authority have regional liaison officers out there on the ground now engaging with community and councils, and we will continue to do so. We stay connected with the community to understand the issues. It's great to have the activations and support of the community now, but we will continue to reassess what is needed, and what is needed we will provide as it becomes apparent. Now, if anyone does need support, I recommend that they go to the Community Recovery Hotline on 1800 173 349 and you can get support. Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Senator Nita Green, and I'm based here in Cairns, so from a local level can I just say that we're certainly feeling pretty relieved about the outcome over the last couple of hours and the last 24 hours particularly. It's certainly we certainly think we're through the worst of the weather, but there has been a lot of rain. So if people locally could heed those warnings about floodwaters, but of course if you don't need to be on the roads today, don't go on the roads. We don't want to have a situation where we've got someone in an accident because of the wild weather that we have in the next couple of hours. I'm also the Special Envoy for the Great Barrier Reef, so I just wanted to mention that on Tuesday I received a briefing from the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority about how they were preparing for this event, and I spoke to a lot of the tourism operators here in far north Queensland. They were pretty relaxed, and in the aftermath I think that they'll be able to get out on the water pretty quickly, assess if there is any damage, but I think it'll be pretty minimal, and that's a really good news story for our tourism industry here in far north Queensland. We hope people are coming back to our region as quickly as possible to experience the wonderful region that we have. Finally, can I say thank you to the team behind me. Particularly can I thank the Deputy Premier and Minister Murray Watt for getting that disaster assistance approved so quickly and getting it out the door as quickly as possible. Can I also thank the Mayor Terry James and his team here, who've done an absolutely wonderful job over the last couple of days of keeping people informed, including myself, but also just keeping the public reassured. On a personal level, can I say thank you to all those people that have reached out to me. I've been at home with a little toddler over the last couple of days, and I think it's been harder managing her than it has been managing the cyclone, to be honest, but thanks to all those people that have reached out. Big thanks to the person who recommended I download the Wiggles before we lost power. We've still got power out across the region, and I know that Ergon's working really hard to get that back up and running. That's a little frustrating for people, I know, but I think in the scheme of things, the fact that we've gotten through this together and we've done that with minimal damage and no loss of life at this moment is really, really good news for our region. So thank you for the team behind me for your incredible work.
Questions for yourself?
Sure. Obviously now we're in school holidays, and I know you need to touch upon the tourism side of things. Are you encouraging people from across Australia and internationally still to come into the region and explore what we have to offer, given the flash flooding at the moment?
Yeah, maybe not today, but today is probably a good time to start Googling, to think about what a holiday in the far north of our state could look like. I brought my family here last Easter. We had just a fantastic time, and so the best thing that people in other parts of the country can do to support our far north Queenslanders is to think about having a holiday here sometime soon.
Deputy Premier, I want to ask you too about looters. There's been reports of that happening within Cairns, Trinity Beach and other areas, even Farm Cove had a coffee machine stolen last night, and a lot of businesses there, using the cloak of Cyclone Jasper as it was making landfall. What's your reaction to that?
It's really disturbing to hear those reports. You know, what Queenslanders do best is pull together and support each other, and that's what you've seen these last 24 hours. The whole of Queensland pulling together to support our Queenslanders in the far north, and this is certainly not the time to take advantage of those who are vulnerable and suffering from the impacts of the cyclone. I know that our police are out there in the field keeping our communities safe, but we shouldn't be making their job harder, forcing them to deal with those kind of crimes when really all they want to do is help get people back into their homes.
I also ask you on a separate issue, if that's okay, just about youth crime in Townsville. There's been calls overnight for the Defence Force to be brought in to deal with it. What's your response?
I have confidence in our police and their ability to deal with it in Townsville. The Police Commissioner has deployed very significant additional resources, dozens of additional police, as well as extra vehicles into Townsville. They are on the ground now. I met with them at the Operations Centre. They are doing a great job of keeping the Townsville community safe, but Townsville is experiencing a very, very concerning crime wave. What those police in the Operations Centre said to me was that they could better address that crime, particularly stolen vehicle crime, if they had additional aerial support. And so I've been working with the Commissioner. I've asked her to bring a submission that I can take to Cabinet on Monday and seek Cabinet's endorsement of funding that additional aerial support. We've come a long way in what we can do with that aerial support for our police, and now is the time to get that support there in Townsville.
Just on something else again, Canada's Australian Party is calling for you to cancel the 2032 Olympics and prioritise other pressing issues like crime, health and agriculture. Will this be considered in your leadership?
The 2032 Olympics, the Brisbane 2032 Olympics, will put Queensland on a global stage, and places like Cairns will really benefit from that. You know, we recently did international research about recognition of Brisbane and Queensland and our tourism icons, and it was incredibly low. Come 2032, the whole world will know about Brisbane and about Queensland, and that means they'll get to know about places like Cairns and the state's far north, and particularly those incredible natural assets, the Daintree, the Great Barrier Reef. You know, imagine the pictures of the Kuranda Sky Rail that'll be beamed throughout the whole world. And so what I would say to the Catters and others is that Queensland is good enough to do all of the things that we need to do. We can put ourselves on a global stage and support our tourism industry while we also focus on the day-to-day things that matter to Queenslanders, things like cost of living, personal safety, making sure we have the hospital services and the houses to meet our booming population. We can do all of that. They don't need to talk Queensland down. Queensland can have all of those things. The hosting rights to the 2032 Games really is a platform for us to have a golden decade of opportunity, of economic growth and of creating jobs in all of our regions, particularly places like Cairns.
How are you feeling about becoming the new Premier, and why should Queenslanders trust you to lead?
Well, it's been a very big week of dealing with the resignation of our leader while also preparing Queensland for this cyclone. Tomorrow I will seek the support of the Labor caucus, and if I get that support I will go visit the Governor and to be sworn in as our state's next leader. After that I intend to give a speech where I'll outline my vision for our state, my hopes for our state. I love Queensland. I'm a proud Queenslander, and I'm really honoured to get the chance to ask my colleagues for their support to lead our state. And once I've had that support, I'll have a lot more to say about what a government I lead will look like.
Was Anastasia Palaszczuk's last day today. Any message for her? Have you spoken to her today?
I haven't spoken to her today. We had lunch earlier in the week though, and we keep in touch regularly. Anastasia has been a wonderful servant of our state. She loves Queensland. If you look at the lengths she went to keep Queensland safe, working with me during the pandemic, but of course at other times over the last 9 years, I really wish her all the best with whatever she decides to do next. I'm sure it will be in Queensland and serving Queensland in some way or another.
Was that lunch a bit awkward?
No, not at all. We're very close.
Question from the Courier. Should you, the Premier, attend caucus tomorrow?
Sorry?
Should you attend caucus tomorrow?
Well, I'll need to attend caucus tomorrow. I intend to nominate to be their leader, and I can't do that if I'm not there. So, yes, I'll be addressing caucus tomorrow.
Is Mark Ryan becoming Attorney General, and what will be that be then?
I'm not going to speculate on portfolio allocations. The first thing we need to do is get caucus's endorsement of our leadership team, which is Cameron Dick as Deputy Premier and Treasurer, and myself as Premier. Once we have that, the caucus will then have a chance to address vacancies in the Cabinet. We know there will be at least some, and once those vacancies have been appointed, then we will start to look at portfolios. So there's still a couple of days before we'll know exactly who is in what job.
Can I speak to Terry, if that's all right?
Of course.
Thanks, Deputy. Terry, just in regards to the dam levels you mentioned, can you go and clarify those numbers again for us, if that's okay? What you
About approximately 1.5 metres below the spillway yesterday, and we're 1 metre over as we stand here today.
So in total?
2.5 metres by the time you add it up.
I'm terrible at maths. So
Okay.
So you want that in one graph?
Well, lead up to the event, there were obviously pretty significant warnings for what might happen, and there was a lot of, to be really prepared, and the damage has been fairly minimal compared with what we were preparing for. Is there also a message that needs to go out to people of far north Queensland that that's not a sign to be complacent in future events like this, that this was a lucky series of events that didn't become disastrous, but it still could in the future?
Absolutely. Complacency is our biggest fear. It's been a long time since we've had a cyclone with a direct hit that's done a lot of damage in Cairns, and we need to get that message out. And we do it continuously. We start at the beginning of the season, back in 1st of November is the start of the season, and we finish on the 30th of April. And we got that message out very early, and we've been telling that message ever since. So, and I think just the results that we heard today from our LDMG meeting, the amount of hits that we've had on My Cairns app and our dashboard were significant. I think one of the figures was over 1.2 million hits on our app. That's unbelievable. So people have been listening, and they did listen, because last night, for example, we had next to no phone calls at the disaster centre here. I think they'll ramp up again now as the flooding starts. That's it's traditional with anything that council does in our general daily life. We get a call in our centre there once every 15 minutes. The moment it rains, it goes down to once every 7 minutes, and that's what we'll start to see.
Do you have any information on how the Far North's homeless population went during the event? Because it doesn't sound like many went to the evacuation centre. So
we had about 88 people in our evacuation centre, and believe it or not, half of those were children, which is amazing. So, and we worked very well with people like Mission Australia and Access Housing. They did look after the homeless people.
Please, can I get you to just talk about the looters situation? How shocking that is, the fact that they use social media.
So going into an event like this, we always have a strategy around looters, because unfortunately what we find in events like this, there's always this minority that is out there to make life difficult for everyone. That is incredibly disappointing and unacceptable. When people are vulnerable and away from their homes and their businesses, that they are being looted. So we are putting out additional patrols. I will warn the looters though, there is CCTV footage often, and more often than not, who should be expected to be found and to be dealt with.
In terms of what locals in Townsville are calling for the defence to step in and help them out with the youth crime crisis there, is that a bit of a kick in the guts for the local police there?
Definitely not. I think those things I'm always one very much based on good evidence and research why you should do this, like why you should do certain things. And Defence has a reason why they exist, and they should stay in that role. Police are experts at what they do. They're very good at what they do. And with the additional resources that we've asked for, that we continually ask for when we believe we need them, I'm very confident that we will get on top of this situation. What has happened in Townsville in the last couple of weeks in particular, it has spiked like we have not seen it before, compared to the previous fortnight and compared to that same period last year, which culminated in that terrible, terrible weekend where all of our vehicles were obviously boxed in. So it has been an incredibly difficult week. We have sent in additional resources from our public safety response team, additional 10 vehicles, additional resource from our Guardian team with our youth justice team. So we've pretty well flooded the place with resources and police, and we will also, in the interim, until I can permanently get that helo in the air, we call it Eyes in the Sky, into Townsville, we will have an interim fix until we get that permanently as well. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Much appreciated. Lovely to be here. And thank you for what you do.
Is this your one? Yes. Sorry, we're just going to go to the aircon.